Okay, let's get started. My name is Michael Devlin. I'm a real estate broker, and this is Real Estate 101, how to launch a successful real estate career. And what we're going to be covering is really three topics. Number one is why real estate and why now. And what I mean by that, if you're willing to take time to, attend something like this, it's usually because you're looking for something new, something different, hopefully better in your business or professional life. I'm assuming that's why you're here. And if you're looking for something new, different, better, then one question would be why would you get into real estate? And then why now? What do you need to do to be successful? Is now a good time to get started? How much money can I really make? What do I have to do? We're going to cover all of that. A second topic is how to choose an office to affiliate with. Because if you've decided you want to get into real estate, the next question is, well, with whom? There's different kinds of real estate companies. They operate and are structured differently. And we'll look at some of the things you might look at if you were going to pick one. And then finally, in how to get started, that's where we're going to talk about what you need to do to get a real estate license. How long does that process take? And well, how much does all of this cost? Right? I hope that's similar to what you came to hear because, well, that's sort of what I'm going to talk about. So let's start with the question of why real estate. And I'd like to begin with some definitions. There's the word broker, the word salesperson, and those two terms refer to two different kinds of real estate licenses. You could have a real estate broker's license, or you could have a real estate salesperson's license. There isn't a big practical difference between the two. If you have a real estate salesperson's license, you can do everything that the broker can do with two exceptions, right? One is a broker can be independent. A salesperson has to work for a broker. Brokers don't have to work for brokers. Brokers can be independent. The second thing you could do with a broker's license is, well, you could brag about it. You could tell everybody you've got the broker's license, the advanced license, the graduate license, the executive license, right? Most people have no idea what you're talking about, nor do they, particularly care. Now, to become a real estate broker, it requires 2 years full-time experience in real estate or 4 years part-time experience in real estate in the last 5 years. Plus, you have to take some extra courses and pass a longer, harder exam. So we're going to start with talking about being a salesperson. Then there's the word agent. The word agent is really more about a relationship where you have one person called the principal who hires another person called the agent, and that agent represents the principal in dealings with third parties. No third party, no agency. Now, the reason I mention that is because I've been asked this question many times. Somebody will say to me, well, if I, get my real estate license and I'd like to buy a property for myself and my family, can I be my own agent, right? I get asked that question a lot. And technically, legally, the answer is no. No, you can't be your own agent. Because by definition, an agent represents somebody else. And if you're the buyer, then you're not the agent because you're a principal in the transaction. That, by the way, was a technically correct answer to the question. But I know that's not really the question they were asking me, right? The question they were really asking me was, if I get my real estate license and I want to buy a house for myself and my family, can I save money on the commission? And the answer is yes. Not because you're acting as an agent in the transaction. You're not. You're a principal. But it's because you're a licensee. And we use the term licensee, we're referring to somebody with a real estate license, either a broker's license or a salesperson's license. And as a result of that professional status, you could save money on the commission. And finally, we have the term realtor. The term realtor is a copyrighted designation of the National Association of Realtors, which is a trade association, which is, well, it's kind of like a union. It's a lot like the union. It's like the Teamsters Union. Now, if you're not familiar, the Teamsters is a union you might join if you wanted to, let's say, drive trucks commercially. My question is it required by law that you join the Teamsters Union in order to drive a commercial vehicle And the answer is no, no. What do you need to drive a truck? Well, you need a commercial license, right? You need the license, but you don't have to join the union. You might choose to join the union. There are some jobs you're not going to get unless you're a member of the union. They have benefit packages and retirement plans and training systems and job boards, right? There's stuff that you might be interested in. So do you need to join our union, the National Association of Realtors, if you want to sell real estate? The answer is no, right? You're probably going to do that, however, maybe, depending upon the kind of real estate you're going to sell. More about that later. What can you do if you have a real estate license? Well, you can do residential real estate. I bet you knew that you could help somebody buy or sell a house and get paid a commission. The same is true for commercial. I have people say to me, you know, I don't want to drive around and the weekends and go to people's homes at night. And, you know, I don't want to sit at their kitchen table and talk to them about selling their house. I want to work normal business hours, you know, with business people. I want to be a commercial real estate agent. How do I get that license? And the answer is there is no such thing as a commercial real estate license. There's just a real estate license. And if you have a real estate license, you can do residential real estate, you can do commercial real estate, and you can do loans. There's other ways of doing loans without a real estate license. You could be licensed from the Department of Financial Protection and Oversight, used to be called the Department of Business Oversight, which is a separate license, or you can have a real estate license. Mortgage companies are mortgage brokers typically, and they have real estate licenses. Property management, if you don't own it or live in it, you have to have a real estate license to be paid to manage it. Same license. And a business opportunity is when we're selling a business, but we're not really selling the real estate. Supposing you've always wanted to own a hardware store. Well, rather than starting your own, you could find an existing hardware store for sale. Let's say Harry's Hardware, a little neighborhood hardware store. Now, there's a good chance that Harry does not own the building and does not own the land. He's a tenant. If you buy the hardware store from Harry, then you are not buying real property because he doesn't own any, not there at least. You're buying the business, which is a form of personal property. And you could do that and be paid a commission if you have a real estate license. Companies I work with do all of these different things, and all of them you could do with a real estate license. So there are different ways of getting a real estate license. You could work for a broker, or you could not work for a broker, but you need a broker, right? Now, the reason for this slide is that people have often said to me, you know, I've always wanted to get into real estate, and now it seems like a good time. You know, I've got time on my hands. I'm sheltering in place and all of that sort of stuff. I have time to study, but I don't really know what I'm going to do when I get my license. I don't know who I'm going to work for. I haven't lined up a broker. Can I get my real estate license without having a broker or knowing exactly what I'm going to do? The answer is yes. You can go take the exam and pass it and get a non-working real estate license, which means you're not sponsored by a broker, a non-working license. Now, a non-working real estate license is sort of like a non-working car, right? You can have it in your garage, and when people can come over, you could show it to them, they can sit in it. But when they say, this looks like fun to drive, can we go for a spin? You have to say, well, no, you see, it's not exactly a working car, right? So even though you can go get a real estate license and keep it forever without ever activating it with a broker, it's a non-working license, which means in order to make money with it and earn a commission, you need to activate your license with a broker. Why are people attracted to real estate? Probably the number one thing I've heard is freedom and independence. A long time ago, I worked for a weird company. It was, I thought, very strange the way they ran their company, because what they did that I found odd is they told everyone what time you had to be at work each day. it was like they had some sort of a rule, right? That everyone had to start at a particular time. They'd let you know when you could go on a break and when was lunch and when lunch was over. And then at the end, when you could go home. I believe that arrangement is called the job, right? I think that's what that's called, JOB, the journey of the broke. Well, being in real estate is not like having a job. You're an independent contractor. It's much more like having your own business than being employed by somebody. And in fact, the people that are most successful in real estate are the people that always wanted to have their own business. And it wouldn't hurt if you had some business acumen, right, and understood what it meant to have a business. You understand what I'm saying? We're not going to call you at 10 in the morning and say, hey, where are you, right? It's not that kind of a deal. In fact, the relationship that we have with our associates is more like a business consultant or a business advisor to a business owner than it is an employer-employee relationship. So what is a big disadvantage for some people being in real estate? Disadvantage. And the answer is freedom and independence, because freedom is a gift not always wisely used. There was a story of a guy that started at a tech company, and it was his first day, and they were giving him the tour, and it was lunchtime, and he was sitting at a table. That's back when we were doing stuff like that. And there was some old timer talking to him about where the company had been and where they're going and what's wrong and what's good and all that sort of stuff. And finally, the new guy said to the old timer, well, tell me, how long have you worked for this company? And the old timer says, ever since they threatened to fire me. That's when I started working for the company. Have you ever met people like that? They work just enough so they don't get fired, right? And then the company pays them just enough so they don't quit, right? And they work out this sort of sick relationship, So I'm going to say it plainly. Real estate is a non-salaried, commission-only profession. It can be a very high-paying hard job, but it can also be a very low-paying, easy one as well. Speaking of a high-paying hard job, there are financial rewards. How much? Well, let's look at a couple of examples. Let's say you were to sell a $800,000 property, which is about the median price of a home in California, just a teensy bit above that. Your mileage may vary depending on where you are. What would be the commission on the sale of an $800,000 property? If I had a buyer and the buyer brought an $800,000 property, what would the gross commission be? Typically, it would be in the area of about $20,000, representing one side on an $800,000 transaction. Now, what that would mean is that if you sold 12 of those properties, if you found 6 people that wanted to sell an $800,000 home and it sold, and you found 6 people that wanted to buy an $800,000 home and they bought, you would have done 12 transactions. And your gross commission income would be $240,000. $240,000 from one transaction a month. So the first question is, I guess, could you live on that? I realize you might have to cut back a little. So if we're talking about $1 million, right? And in Santa Clara County and Silicon Valley, the median price of a single family home is more in the 1.4 range than it is in the $800,000 range. If you sold $12 million homes, the gross commission would be $300,000. And by the way, just to throw this out there, if you sold $40 million homes in a year, which may not be your first year production, but is something you could work to, 40 transactions at $1 million each average, that would be $1 million in commission income, $1 million. And I know some of you may be thinking, right? If I actually had $1 million in commission income, I would have no idea how I could possibly spend all that money. I'm sure that was something you were thinking, but I don't know, maybe not. One of the things you could do with the money, however, is you could invest in real estate. How about that? There's an old saying, buy land, they're not making any more of it. right? So most people that retire and they're comfortable or wealthy do so because of real estate investments. And if you wanted to invest in real estate, being in real estate would be a good place to be. You find out about properties before other people do. You know more about financing options and where the market is hot and where it's not. And finally, security, which may seem like an odd thing for somebody who's an independent contractor, right? Isn't it better to have a job? Isn't that security? Well, I had a friend who went to San Jose State, studied mechanical engineering, graduated, went to work for Hitachi in the hard drive division. 28 and a half years later, they laid him off, right? They said nothing personal. And he knew it really wasn't personal because they laid off everybody in his department in the division. They shut down the whole plant. It was moved to some other country. Now, I'm not saying my friend was a perfect engineer, right? Not perfect. But even if he had been a perfect engineer, he still would have been laid off, right? It wasn't that somebody decided that he wasn't doing a good job. They decided we don't need anybody doing that job here anymore. So being in real estate, because it's like having your own business, because you're an independent contractor, you can be bad at it. You can fail at it, but you can't really get fired. You understand? If you don't get along with us, you could take your license and go down the street and, go work for another broker. If you can't get along with anybody, all you have to do is tough it out for 2 years, go get your broker's license, then you can be alone all the time. Which, there's some problems with that idea, but you get my point. You can fail, but you can't get fired. If you're successful, you can't be thrown out of the business, can't be laid off. Different ways of approaching real estate, right? In the hierarchy, you could start off as an unlicensed finder, just finding people that want to buy or sell real estate. You could have your license and be a referral only. You could be an investor agent. And investor agents I define as somebody who primarily is getting their license because they want to invest in real estate, right? That's their major motivation. They oftentimes have another job, but that's really what their goal is, to maximize their ability for real estate investing. Then there are dual career part-time agents, and there's two kinds of those. There are the transition part-time agents, and these are people that want out of whatever it is they're doing right now, right? They want to get out, they want to transition, and they want to make enough money in real estate that they can quit the job they have. But then there's permanent part-time. These are people that don't want to quit their job, right? They'd like to earn some extra money. They are maybe meeting the people that they're buying and selling real estate with from their job. The job is stable, at least for now. There's, benefits and things like that. Then there are full-time agents, and full-time agents are agents that, are doing at least 40 hours. They can devote at least 40 hours a week, concentrated time to the real estate business. They may have families, they may have something else on the side, but essentially they're full-time. And then big time agents are agents that develop teams where sometimes the teams are local, sometimes they're regional, sometimes they're national. I'm not kidding, with people in other states, and sometimes they're even international. I'll talk more about that later. Let's start with the unlicensed finder. So an unlicensed finder is somebody who doesn't have a real estate license. And in California, it is legal for somebody without a real estate license to find and introduce people to somebody with a license like me, to even solicit people that they know to be referred to somebody like me. Now, because they don't have a license, they're not supposed to take part in the negotiations or discuss the price of the property or the terms or conditions of the transaction. But they can earn money simply by finding people and referring them. The referral only agent is somebody who's actually gotten their real estate license, which gives them more options than the unlicensed finders. Why would a person do this? Because they don't want to join the Association of Realtors or the multiple listing service. Why not? Because it costs money. We'll talk more about that later. And they can refer business to somebody like me, but because they're licensed, they can be involved in the transaction. And typically what the unlicensed finders are doing is they're in the process of getting licensed, or the referral only agents are earning money so that they can afford to launch their own career independently and join the Board of Realtors in the MLS. So if you're a full-time agent, some challenges. Number one, this is sales. You have to understand that at its crux, real estate is professional sales. And what sales means is having conversations with people about whatever it is you're selling. In our case, real estate. You have to talk to people about real estate, about buying or selling or investing in real estate. The more people you talk to, the more you'll get paid. If you only talk to some people about real estate, you'll get paid some. But if you can talk to a lot of people about real estate, then you can get paid a lot. It's a function of how many people you talk to. You might need 6 months reserves if you're doing this full time. In other words, let's say your license was issued today. How long is it going to take you to find somebody that wants to buy, sell, or invest? It could take a little while. Our goal is for you to write up some business in the first 30 days. So you've got a contract. How long does it take to close the contract? At least a month or so. You understand it could be months before income starts coming in, anyhow, and you might need reserves if this is your only source of income. If you're doing residential real estate, you need to work evenings and weekends. There's an old saying, you have to make hay when the sun shines, which is for us when the sun isn't shining or on weekends. And that's why you can do this part-time, because when your clients are going to want to talk to you is typically when they're not working, which is when you're not working. How do you feel about working evenings and weekends? You have to be a self-starter. That means you have to have self-motivation, right? No one is standing over your shoulder asking you what to do. What are you doing? Telling you what to do, right? You have sometimes too much freedom. You have to have discipline. There's no salary. I've already mentioned that. And it may require a couple of $1,000s of startup capital. I'll explain that in greater detail soon. So what do you need to succeed? Well, you need to have a goal. It would help at least to have a goal. And then it would be nice to have a plan that would help you, reach the goal and schedule the plan. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a full-time real estate agent and you like the idea of closing one transaction a month, $200,000, $300,000 in gross income a year, not too shabby, right? So if you want to close 12 transactions, the question is, how many appointments are you going to need with buyers and sellers and investors of real estate before you can close one transaction? Now, I help with the agents that I'm mentoring so that I can improve their ratio. But let's say you're going to need, because you're new at this, 4 appointments in order to have one person actually buy, sell, or invest. So if you want to close 12 transactions and you need 4 appointments to close a transaction, that means you're going to need 48 appointments. That means you need, on average, 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks, right? You could take a month off. You're in real estate, take a month off. All right, so that doesn't sound too bad. 1 appointment a week, that doesn't sound too bad. How do I get an appointment a week? And the answer is you have to talk to people. How many people do you have to talk to get an appointment? Well, it depends. It depends on who they are and how you know them and a bunch of other factors. But a rule of thumb is that you're going to need about 50 conversations to get an appointment. All right, so that means on a 5-day work week, if you talk to 10 people a day, 5 days in a row, on average, that would be 50 conversations a week, which would lead to an appointment a week, which would lead to a transaction a month, which means you could, maybe go buy a new Tesla, that sort of thing. So who do you talk to and how do you talk to them? That's what the training and coaching and the tools and systems and the mentoring program is all about. What do real estate agents do all day? Now, this was set up like an actual schedule, but it's oftentimes all over the place. It's the topics that were more important to me. We call talking to people about real estate lead generation, sometimes known as prospecting. It requires a little bit of preparation work in advance, getting together who you're going to talk to and maybe figuring out what you're going to say. Then there's the actual doing it, the lead generation, the actual talking to people, people you know and people you don't know, and that sort of thing. There's also servicing, because we get text messages and emails, and there's documents that have to be filled out. Lead conversion means following up with people that you've talked to in the past. We know that about 70% of all real estate transactions come not from the initial conversation, but following up with people that you've had a conversation with. More business servicing, appointments with buyers and sellers, showing property. That's pretty much what real estate agents do. So what's going on in the real estate market? It changes, right? The market, as you may have heard, is kind of hot, right? And in 2021, according to the National Association of Realtors, the current number of single-family homes for sale, we're talking about the supply, is 1,080,000 at the time that they released these numbers. Last year, it was 1,450,000. So when we entered, this is in January of 2021, there's about 370,000 fewer homes for sale than there were a year ago. And that ratio and that percentage is kind of consistent even in California and the Bay Area. Is there going to be more inventory, right? Is that going to ease? Well, perhaps. First of all, many sellers say they're not putting their home on the market because they're waiting for the virus to get better, go away, that they're nervous about it. But that, however, might be easing some. And they're also, when that eases, let's say the vaccination programs roll out and that sort of stuff, more people may be putting their home on the market. Also, there's some people that were financially hit by the pandemic and they may need to sell their homes, so there would be more inventory. However, having said that, there's still a pretty strong demand. What's driving this demand? And the answer is low interest rates. If you looked at what the average interest rate has been in the United States since the 1970s, right? Average, what's the interest rate? It's about 7%, 7%, right? Average. Right now, they're about 3%, right? Those numbers may be a little bit high, but interest rates are relatively low. They're a full percentage point lower than, 2.75 is about where they're at right now, which is one reason that demand is high, because interest rates are still low, probably going to stay low for the rest of the year. So projections on the housing supply and demand, analysts forecast that homes are still going to appreciate in 2021, but probably not as much as they did in the last year or two. What is that forecast look like? Well, there's a lot of alphabet soup at the bottom. NAR is the National Association of Realtors, and Zelman Associates and Realtor.com are taking a view that it's going to be 5 to 6%. Around 6% is how much properties are going to appreciate in 2021. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are government-sponsored entities that buy and sell loans. MBA is maybe not what you're thinking. That's the Mortgage Bankers Association. CoreLogic is a big real estate data company, and they're seeing appreciation from 2 to almost 3%. Average is almost 4 if we average all of them. And the reality is we don't know, right? We don't know how the vaccination program, how quickly it's going to take effect, and we just don't know for sure. But right now, because of low interest rates and low inventory, high demand, prices are still appreciating, but not as much as they were before. I hear that pretty soon there's going to be a tsunami of foreclosures. I see that phrase a lot, because there's forbearance on people that are in default, and when that ends, there's going to be, this huge wave of people that are going to go into foreclosure, and if it goes into foreclosure, people don't get as much, and so prices are going to crash, the sky's going to fall, all of that sort of stuff. However, and it is true that a lot of people are in forbearance, but the difference now between what our market is like versus 2008 and 2009, when there was a tsunami of foreclosures, and what the difference is how much equity people have in their houses. So back in 2008 and 2009, there were a lot of people that were underwater, which means that the value of their home had dropped below what the loan amount was. Right? They could not sell their home and pay off their existing loan. That's not the way it is right now. As Michael Sklarz of Collateral Analytics says, we may very well see a meaningful increase in the number of homes listed for sale as these borrowers choose to sell at what is arguably an intermediate top of the market and then downsize to more affordable homes rather than face foreclosure. Right now, most people don't have to go to foreclosure. They can sell their home and pay off their loan, walk away with cash and go do something else. And how much of an effect is this going to have on the supply and demand? Some, but not a huge, in my opinion. This is like throwing peanuts at a starving elephant, right? It would take a substantial increase in the available inventory before you're going to see prices drop a lot. The factor that is more likely than not to cause an adjustment in real estate is interest rates rising. Because as interest rates rise 1%, it reduces the purchasing power of a buyer by 10%. And if interest rates go up to 4 or to 5%, then that's going to mean that prices will not be able to sustain their current level because people won't be able to afford them anymore. Odette Cushy of First American, with enough equity, a homeowner has the option of selling their home or tapping into their equity through a refinance to help weather the economic shock. It is lack of sufficient equity, the second component of the dual trigger that causes delinquencies to become a foreclosure. We've got a lot of equity. So let's talk about offices. Getting started, being a successful agent. As a general concept, right, and I'm going to talk about some variations here, the higher they pay you, the more they pay you as a salesperson, the lower the services are. It's like a teeter-totter. So just so you understand, if $20,000 is the gross commission income, you don't get to keep all of it. Right? If you're the salesperson, you don't get to keep all of it. The office gets some and you get some. As they raise the percentage that you get, they lower what they do to help you. They oftentimes also increase the monthly charges simply to work at the office. But let's look at this in a little greater detail. There are different kinds of real estate offices. There's the independent, the national franchise, and the cloud-based brokerage. So what's independent, right? I have one. I'm affiliated with a couple of them, and on the upside, there's no monthly fees, right? The little independents, you can work at them with no monthly fees, but they also have no technology, right? Why don't they have? And by technology, I mean websites for you and customer relationship management system and programs to make flyers and marketing material and all that. They don't have that, right? But what do you expect? You're not paying anything anyhow. Their split may be higher, right? In other words, you may be getting 75, 70%, but there's no cap, which means that you continue to give money to the company no matter how many transactions you do. There may be training by the office, and the ones that I'm affiliated with, I train agents. The Board of Realtors does some training, and the Multiple Listing Service does some training, but the amount of training you get at the independent is very limited. There's no revenue or profit sharing. I will talk more about that. No stock options, but they have a high degree of flexibility. You can do commercial, you can do loans. What kind of person, what kind of real estate agent is attracted or would fit best at the little independent? Part-time agents, referral-only agents, investor agents, or agents who don't want to pay any monthly fees. I also have I worked for 7 years at a company called Keller Williams. And Keller Williams may be the largest residential real estate company in the world. There's, arguments about that. The Keller Williams is a traditional franchise brick and mortar kind of real estate office. They have large monthly fees. By large, I mean $200 to $300 a month, oftentimes. Mid-level technology. Yeah, you'll get a website and you'll get some software, but it's not very sophisticated. It's sort of a one size fits all. The commission, so for example, at Keller Williams, the baseline commission would be 70-30, 70% to you, 30% to the office. They have, and they would cap that at, depending on which office, $33,000 to $45,000, which would mean once the office had earned from your commissions $33,000 to $45,000, depending on the office you're at, you would go to 100% for the rest of that year. But you just have to realize that if you're selling a lot of real estate, you're going to have to give them $35,000 to $45,000. They have training, but the training is usually mid-level. For example, there's a 30-day training program, right, which you can have. And this is pretty much true for Coldwell Banker and Intero and Berkshire Hathaway and those kind of companies. One size fits all, one little spin dry training program. Keller Williams has something called profit share, which means that if you introduce other people and they're selling real estate, you can earn money. I'm actually still ranked in the top 1% of Keller Williams lifetime profit share earners. Not kidding, and it isn't very much money. There's no stock options. Why not? Because it's a privately held company and there is no stock. They're not very flexible. This is true, by the way, for most of the national franchises, not very flexible because they're a big company and, you know, there's not a lot of flexibility, not a lot of options. And so that would be the type of an office that would be good for agents who need a brick and mortar building, right? Someplace that they can go into and sit, right? Now you need to understand that most of the top agents don't go to the office because there's no business to be done at the office, right? And they're out, you know, making money rather than hanging around the office. And of course, we're not really going to the office right now, but that's sort of the niche for somebody like that. And then there's a cloud-based brokerage. I spend most of my effort with a company called eXp Realty. eXp has lower monthly fees. By that, I mean like $85 a month compared to $200 to $300 at a typical other franchise. High level technology, not basic stuff, but more sophisticated. The software that we use for websites and customer relationship management and things like that is called KV Core, which retails for about $500 a month if you just wanted to go buy it. That's all included in the $85 a month. The split is higher. Whereas at a Keller Williams, you might start at 70-30. At eXp, you start at 80-20. So let's look at that $800,000 sale, right? $800,000 sale. That's $20,000, let's say, as an example of gross commission income. On an 80-20 commission split, it means you as the agent would get $16,000 and the office would get $4,000. There is a cap. And the cap at eXp is $16,000. What that would mean is that when you had sold 4 houses, 4 $800,000 houses, $3.25 million in volume. By the way, in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, it's not that hard to hit 3.5 million. I'm showing homes to people right now that are worth more than 3.5 million. So you could just take one transaction at that level. But when you have done 3.25 million roughly in the volume of the property, you capped at eXp, which means you get 100% of everything that comes after that. Higher level training, I mean way more training, more than 50 hours a week. Right now we're having a all day long 5-day series on just commercial real estate. It's got way more training than you would get. Revenue share. What revenue share means is that at eXp, so remember the example, the $800,000 sale is $20,000 in gross commission and $16,000 goes to you on an 80-20 split, and eXp would get $4,000. Out of the $4,000 that eXp gets, they give back to agents half of it. $2,000 would be shared with agents. 50% of all the money that goes into eXp is shared with their agents. I have some handouts that explain that in a little more detail. And stock options. EXPI is traded on NASDAQ. We'll talk about what that stock looks like. I'm in a system where every time I close a transaction at EXP, 5% of my commission goes to purchasing stock at a 10% discount. Quite a deal. Not as flexible maybe as an independent, but a lot more options. You can do commercial, you can do business opportunities, you can do a lot more things, but they require that you go through appropriate training and be mentored. So EXP is great for agents that are comfortable working in the cloud and have big goals. Good training, good technology, good tools and systems, better than what you're going to get at the franchises. Who's worth more? Hilton Hotels or Airbnb? If we look at the market capitalization, and it was a little while ago that I ran these numbers, like it was in 2021, but not necessarily this morning. Hilton Hotels International, as you probably would guess, owns a lot of real estate, right? They have a lot of hotels, they have a lot of rooms. Their market capitalization was at 30.87 billion. And Airbnb's market capitalization was 88.25 billion, right? Which means that without having any rooms to rent, Airbnb is worth almost 3 times as much as Hilton Hotels. I don't know if you've ever heard of the company called Realogy. Realogy is not necessarily a household name, but the brands that Realogy has, you've heard of them, because Realogy owns Coldwell Banker and Coldwell Banker Commercial and Century 21 and Sotheby's and ERA and Better Homes and Gardens and the Cochran Group. And NRT stands for the National Realty Trust, which owns Zip Realty and Klein Realty. Cardis is a huge relocation company. They own that. And TRG is a group of title companies. What is the market capitalization of Realogy? 1.51 billion. How about RE/MAX? Now there's a dispute as to who's biggest. Is it RE/MAX or is it Keller Williams, right? Keller Williams says they're biggest, RE/MAX says they're biggest. But this is what RE/MAX says on their website. They're the leading global real estate franchisors, right? With 120,000 agents and more than 100 companies. And in 2021, when I checked, their market capitalization was a measly 674 million. How about EXP? EXP, Realty EXP, Commercial, Verbella, all of these are part of EXP World Holdings. Now, I checked again today, but when I did this earlier in the month, EXP's market capitalization was 4.42 billion. It is now at 7.63 billion. Right, which means I didn't move it down over here. It's over 7 billion. You can see it's worth, how much is that? 4 or 5 times as much as Realogy. All of those brands put together, a huge amount more than RE/MAX. So is having stock in a company, that stock is going up. We're about to do a stock split. The stock is rising. Yeah, that might be a good investment. Why is it happening? Why is EXP growing? We hit 40,000 agents at the end of December because we're a cloud-based company. And as you might have heard, there was this virus. So what happened when the pandemic hit is all the major real estate companies, as well as many other companies, were struggling to figure out how are we going to run our business, given the fact that people can't come to the office and everybody has to work remotely. How do we do that, right? And they didn't know because they didn't really have any experience, but EXP had been a cloud-based company for a long time, even before that, and didn't have to figure out what to do. They were already doing it. We were ranked by Glassdoor as one of the best places to work in 2021. Been that 5 years in a row. We're an international company. United States and Mexico and Canada and Brazil and Puerto Rico and Portugal and Italy and the United Kingdom and France and South Africa and India, Hong Kong and Australia and growing. There's a bunch more in the hopper. We have an international footprint and on a phenomenal growth. right? We're expanding. We had the most profitable quarter ever in the third quarter of 2020, exceeded 40,000 agents, acquired a bunch of technology suites and IDX, that's the data exchange for real estate feeds and media property, personal development, media property success enterprises. That's a whole bunch of different kinds of companies, a commercial real estate division, a full-fledged commercial division. As I mentioned, we're having all day long training on that for certification and global expansion. My point is that maybe you didn't buy Tesla when the stock was low, and maybe you didn't get into Airbnb, and our stock is rising fast, but getting stock options in a company that's really on the cutting edge, whose stock is cloud-based business going to be a thing of the future? Or was it just, sort of something that just happened, in 2020? I think it's going to be more of a thing in the future. This is from the 2020 profile of home buyers and sellers from the National Association of Realtors. It was a survey done of buyers and sellers. And what I wanted to point out is, how do real estate agents typically find a buyer? Right. So in the survey, the union, the National Association of Realtors, asked residential buyers and sellers, how did you meet your agent? Notice that 40% of the time, they said they found their agent as a referral, or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. 40% of buyers met their agent by either being a friend, neighbor, or relative of the agent, or being referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. And 13% of the time they'd used the agent before. 53% of the time was repeat and referral business. How about door knocking, cold calling people? Well, personal contact by the agent was about 4%. Right? And you can see it, it varies depending. Open houses, which we're not really doing right now, but it's traditionally better than it's about 5%. What's important to buyers? Do buyers care about the name of the company? Is a buyer going to work with one agent because they're at a company, but not if they leave the company? If you had an agent that you liked that was showing you homes, and the agent said, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know I changed offices, I'm no longer at Coldwell Banker, I've joined EXP, are you going to say, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that, I can't work with you anymore? And nobody cares about that. In fact, what they found in their survey is that only 1% of the buyers said that the association with a particular firm was important to them. Honesty and trustworthiness was 21%, 18% was the agent's experience, 13% said, hey, they're a friend, family member, I got to do it. Reputation of the agent was 15%, so they don't really care about the name of the company, they care about you. Well, how about sellers? How do sellers find their real estate agent? Well, again, we're looking at family, friends, and coworkers, 41%, slightly higher than buyers. But notice another large percentage, 26% had used the agent before. So what's that, 67%? Yeah, something like that. Is repeat and referral business. So if you work with buyers and you sell them homes and you do a good job and you follow up with them, they'll refer you to other people. Plus, when it's time for them to sell the home, you can be their agent. Personal contact by the agent was 4%. Referred by another broker, this might be somebody from out of state, 4% of the time, which is why working with an international company with agents all over the United States might actually pay off in terms of getting business. What's important to sellers? Well, some of them are the same, the reputation, honesty, and trustworthiness, but sellers, don't they care about the name of the company? Apparently not. Same percentage as buyers, only 1% of the sellers said that they picked their agent based upon the agent's association with a particular firm. The reality is that buyers and sellers do not do business with real estate companies. They do business with real estate agents. And so it's not about the color of your for sale sign or the name that's on it. It's about you, which is why at EXP, we want you to brand you. right? You have to follow the rules that the Department of Real Estate has on identifying your broker, but we want you to promote you because you're the brand, right? More than we are. So how do you get started? In order to get a real estate license, you have to do three things, right? You have to, one, complete 3 college level courses in real estate. You don't have to go to college, right? Those are all included in our package. 2, you have to pass a test given by the California Department of Real Estate. And then 3rd, you can apply for a salesperson's license. Those are the 3 steps. Before you can take the state exam, you have to take 3 college level courses. 1 has to be real estate principles and 1 has to be real estate practice. But the 3rd one can come from a list of electives. This is what that list looks like. Now, I will point out that on this list is accounting, business law, and economics. Those are on the list. That means if you have ever taken accounting, economics, or business law from a junior college or better, and you can get your hands on a copy of the transcript, then you've got the 3rd course. Sometimes people say, well, I've got all 3. Is that going to help me? Well, maybe it will in life, but not for this purpose because you only need 1 from this list. Some people say, well, I don't have accounting, economics, or business law. What am I going to do? Well, legal aspects of real estate is included in our package. By the way, even if you've got accounting, economics, or business law, my suggestion is go through the legal aspects course anyhow, because the Department of Real Estate on the licensing exam is not going to ask you questions about accounting, economics, or business law, but they will ask you questions about the legal aspects of real estate. How would you complete these courses? The program we use is an online college level course. Let me explain how an online college level course works. You enroll in the course, you get a link, you go to the website, you log in, you click the button that says start the course. That's important because now a timer starts ticking. And in 18 days, you're eligible to take the final exam. You don't have to take the final exam in 18 days. But the point is, you can't take the final exam any sooner than 18 days after you started the course. The final exam is an online final exam. You can take it at home, and it's an open book test. Let me go over that one more time. There are 3 final exams for the 3 college level courses. All 3 of them are online, at home, open book. Cheat as much as you want to. Final exams, you can cheat as much as you want to. They give you 3 hours to get 75 out of 100 questions right. Did I mention that this is an open book test? The reason they make you wait 18 days is all of you could pass tonight. If we gave you the book and an internet connection and left you alone for 3 hours, but you could call friends if you wanted to, you could look up 75 out of 100 questions in the 3 hours just starting cold, right? Which would make the whole thing look like a, kind of a waste, a sham, because it's supposed to be a 45-hour course. So they make you wait 18 days. Now, I'll circle back to that, but I'll mention this part now. What some people do, so it's 18 days before principles is unlocked, but you don't have to take the principles final in 18 days. What happens in 18 days is the 2nd course practice unlocks. And in 18 days, that final exam can be taken, but you don't have to take it either in 18 days. Then the 3rd course is unlocked, and in another 18 days, that's legal aspects, that final exam can be taken. But you don't have to take it yet. And as you can see, I have classes and things, what many people do, including reviews for the college level material. What some people do is they wait till they've gone through all of the classes, and then they take the 3 college level final exams sort of in a row. By the way, there's a huge overlap between the 3. This isn't like going to college and taking English literature and biology and accounting, right? Because those are 3 different courses. Real estate principles and real estate practice and real estate law, pretty much the same material, just sort of hashed about differently. So let me just point out This is not the hard part of getting a real estate license. You understand? This is not the hard part. Online, open book, at home, cheat as much as you want to, final exams, not the hard part. The hard part is passing the state exam. The state exam is not an online, at home, open book test. You have to go to one of the state's testing facilities to take it. And those are Oakland, Sacramento, Fresno, La Palma, which is in the LA, it's in Orange County, I think, technically, and San Diego. Physically, you have to go there and, take the exam. It's not an open book test. They're watching you. You can't cheat or they'll throw you out. And the state exam is 150 multiple multiple choice questions. A, B, C, D, pick the best answer, right? There's no true false, no essays, no fill in the blanks. You have to get 70% of the questions right in order to pass. That's 105 out of 150. Does that sound like a particularly high score to require? 70%? Does it sound like a high score to require? I mean, let's say I'm laying on the operating table and my brain surgeon comes in and pulling on their gloves, the brain surgeon says, look, I may be new, but don't worry, I passed the brain surgeon's exam. I got 70%. I nailed that test. I got 70% of the questions right. Does that sound like a good score for a brain surgeon? 70%? It means they missed more than 1 out of every 4 questions they were asked about the subject of brain surgery. That doesn't sound very good, does it? I mean, the 30% they didn't know, maybe that's what they're doing to me. Now, my point here is you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. You might have guessed that. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. All you have to do is get 70% of the questions right and you're in. Having said that, however, every time the Department of Real Estate gives this test, they fail way more than 50% of the people in the room. And many of those people, they have failed before. You can take this test an unlimited number of times. I have met too many people that have taken the test more than 10 times. One of the things you have to remember, though, is all of these people that are failing the exam, right? And by the way, the failure rate for first-time takers is closer to 70%. The 50% plus failure rate includes people that are taking it for the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth times. All of these people that are failing the real estate exam, all of them have successfully completed those 3 online open book, cheat as much as you want to college courses. They all did, because they won't let you take the state exam unless you've done the 3 college level courses. My point is, doing the 3 college courses does not mean you're getting a real estate license. It simply means you've done the minimum amount required to go take a shot at the test. What I do is I teach people how to pass the exam. I have live classes to teach people how to pass the real estate exam. They're on Wednesday evening, 6:30 to 8:45, broadcast on the internet and recorded. They're in a rotating schedule, think of it like a pizza, right? Because it's warm and cheesy. But like a pizza, I mean, there's no first slice to a pizza, is there? I mean, it's whichever piece you take is the first piece. I don't have a first class either. All of the classes are independent modules. They don't build on each other. You could start with any one of them. They're all equally confusing at first. You could take them in any order if you really felt like being different, and you can repeat them as often as you can stand it. So the investment in getting your real estate license at this point is $398. It includes the live classes. You can repeat them as often as you want, video replays, a course outline, a practice testing program. It includes the 3 college level courses that you need to go take the state exam, and a cram class on a Saturday before you go take your test, a cram class. My group is called DRE class. That's what the website is called, which could stand for Department of Real Estate class or Devlin Real Estate class, whichever you like best. I have a really high pass rate. Virtually everyone who goes through the course passes the exam in the first try. I encourage you to come and sit through a lesson as my guest. There's no cost or obligation. See if you like it or not. Afterwards, I have a placement program where I'll help you find an office that works for you, wherever that might be. And if you join my team on your first closing, I will rebate the $398 you paid to go through the school, 100% tuition rebate program. Can't beat that. How long is this all going to take? Hard to say. the Department of Real Estate at the moment I'm talking now, it has not been giving the test because, well, you know, there's a virus. In a normal life, right, whenever that's going to be again, it would take you a minimum of 4 months to get a real estate license in a normal time. Right now, you would need probably 6 months or so to get a license. And as the vaccine rolls out and other things start working better, it might take less time, but you should count on about 6 months in order to get licensed if you started, you know, tonight, which you could do. I have an apprentice program, which are for people that are in this training program to get their license. They get access to my weekly coaching and training, a guest pass to EXP World, so you can check out some of that. I give you guidance on what you can do now to get your future real estate business going, and you could receive a finder's fee if you knew somebody that wanted to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. What does it cost to get into real estate? Well, the course is $398. It's going to cost $305 to take the state exam and get your license issued. It'll cost $75 to get your fingerprints taken, processed by the Department of Real Estate, $778. Now, if you're planning on being a referral-only agent, right, and you're not going to join the Board of Realtors or the multiple listing service, you could stop right there. If you're going to join the Board of Realtors or the multiple listing service, the annual fee to be a member of the Board of Realtors is about $675. And for the multiple listing service is about $845. That's a year. I should point out that for my group, the average commission is well more than $20,000. Just thought I might mention that. So once you got licensed, your license is good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you have to take 45 hours of continuing education and pay a fee of $245. If you'd like to get more information, reach out to us. You can set up an appointment to talk to me if you've got personal questions you'd like to talk about. That's an email address, the phone number of my office. We have a website, dreclass.com. I have really good Yelp reviews. I've been doing this for a while, and I have a lot of 5-star Yelp reviews. Some people got really into it. And if you go to my website, dreclass.com, you could sign up for a free class, right? Which is the first button there. If you would like to attend a class as a guest lesson, if you want to go to another seminar like that, click on that. If you want to just sign up now because you're sure you want to get started, you'd click on that button. And if you're interested in becoming a loan agent, right, I do classes also on how to launch a successful loan agent career. And if you click on that, you can sign up for the next one or see a video of the one that I did most recently. That's the sign up for a free class. You register. If you want to sign up now, you click on that button, and it's $398, and you're in the program and good to go. That, I believe, is the last and final slide of the series. Are there any questions that I failed to answer? Now would be the time if you've been, dying to ask me a question. And if you're just, maybe would like to talk at a different time, if you're interested in talking to me directly one-on-one because you got questions, write down your questions, reach out to us. We'll send you a calendar link. You can book a time. We can do Zoom. We can do Google Meet. We can do it on the phone, right? Whatever you'd like. I see a hand raised. If you have a question, you're going to have to type it in or reach out to us later. I'll give you a minute in case you want to do that.